Blog Talk Radio.
Following ingredients include a look behind the scenes. Cook uncovered until hot. Add grooves to taste.
I would like, if I may, to take you on a strange journey.
Once upon a time, there was a little girl.
The accident was over a year ago. A second woman has been elected president. A 12th planet has been named in the solar system. The last wild polar bear has died. I slept through it all. I was here for my waking. He called it a beginning. He said it was good. I think he may have thought that anything I did was good.
Welcome to Transition Radio, live from Hollywood, Florida, with your host and hostess, Mark Angelo and Jessica Lynn Cummings. Show for trans folks by trans folks, here to let your voice be heard.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Transition Radio. Today we have a new time because very special event that we are going to be attending this evening at the Transgender Day of Remembrance. I'm going to be performing there, and my lovely wife is going to be trying to keep my nerves settled. I haven't performed in it seems over a little bit over a year, so I do have the jitterbugs, but hey, it's all good.
I will be the headbanging groupie at the corner of the stage.
But first, before we start the show, we want to thank and introduce our sponsors, Breast Form Store. They have been established since 1993. They are the Internet's most trusted and discreet shopping center for all of your transgender and cross-dressing needs. You can have your items shipped directly to you with a discreet package.
Please check them out and browse through their amazing website. And please stay tuned to our future shows as we will soon start running random contests with awesome prize giveaways courtesy of the Breast Form Store online. Check out our website and click on their banner to check them out and show support.
Today is a day we grieve those who were taken too soon through hate. We honor them by remembering them and keeping them in our hearts. Transgender Day of Remembrance occurs annually on November 20th. It is a day to memorialize those who have been killed as a result of transphobia or the hatred or fear of transgender and gender nonconforming people. An act to bring attention to the continued violence endured by the transgender community.
The Transgender Day of Remembrance was founded in 1998 by Gwendolyn Ann Smith, a transgender graphic designer, columnist, and activist to memorialize the murder of Rita Hester in Austin, Massachusetts. Since its inception, the event has been held annually on November 20th. And has slowly evolved from the web-based project started by Smith into an international day of action. In 2010, TDOR was observed in over 185 cities throughout more than 20 countries.
Typically, a TDOR memorial includes a reading of the names of those who lost their lives during the previous year and may include other actions such as candlelight vigils, art shows, food drives, film screening, marches, among others. The TDOR is a culmination of Transgender Awareness Week. Here is a list of those who are not with us now, but will never be forgotten. And the list is not just this year. We're going back since 1988. Venus Stravaganza was found strangled and stuffed under a bed in New York hotel room in 1988.
In 1993, Brandon Tina, a 21-year-old trans man, was raped and murdered in Falls City, Nebraska on December 31st, 1993. 2 men were convicted of first-degree murder in this incident, which became the subject of the Academy Award-winning film Boys Don't Cry.
In 1995, Chanel Pickett, an African-American 23-year-old trans woman, was strangled to death in November 1995. William C. Palmer at home after he realized she was trans.
In 1997, 23-year-old transsexual prostitute Robin Brown was found murdered in her London flat in 1997. She died of multiple stab wounds. James Hopkins was jailed for 17 years for her murder.
1998, Rita Hester, a transgender woman, was found on the floor of her apartment in Alston, Massachusetts on November 28.
2001, Fred Martinez Jr., born March 15, 1985, died June 16, 2001. Martinez's decomposed body was found June 21st, 5 days after his disappearance in a desert canyon on the edge of Cortez.
2002, Gwen Arroyo of Newark, California, died October 2002. An American teenage trans woman was killed by 4 men, 2 of whom she had consensual sexual actions with, who beat and strangled her after discovering she was transsexual.
2003, Amoni Spalding, 25, was shot to death in Washington, D.C. by Derek Antoine Lewis in August of 2003, after Lewis discovered Spalding was transgender.
Bella Evangelista, 25, was shot by Antonin Jacobs in Washington, D.C. after he paid her for oral sex, then learned that she was transgender and became enraged.
Nira Johnson was an African-American trans woman who was murdered in Indianapolis, Indiana by Paul Moore after being initially sexually attracted to her, then discovered that she was transgender.
Phul Sham of Lucknow, India, was raped and murdered when his murderers discovered his FTM status. India Times referred to him as a girl dressed in boys' clothes.
2007, Roberto Gonzalez Onribia died on September 1st in Madrid, Spain, from a beating he received on August 29th.
Ruby Ordenana was a transgender sex worker who was found dead on March 16th. An autopsy showed that she had been strangled to death.
Erica Keels, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Erica, a 20-year-old black transgender woman, was murdered on March 22nd, 2007, on North Broad Street in Philadelphia.
Dana A. Larkin, 26, was a black trans woman who was murdered while working as a prostitute in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
2008, Shanisha Stewart, was a 25-year-old trans woman living in the Bronx, New York, who was stabbed to death on February 10th, 2008.
Larry King of Oxnard, California, was a gay or bisexual 15-year-old 8th grade student who was shot to death at his school on February 12, 2008.
Tawana Johnson, a 40-year-old African-American transgender woman, she was pinned down and beaten by 2 men in a Memphis police jail after she refused to respond to anti-gay and anti-transgender slurs.
Felicia Melton Smith, a 41-year-old trans woman, was stabbed to death on May 26, 2008 in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico.
Angie Zapata was a trans woman who was murdered on July 17, 2008 in Greeley, Colorado. Her death was the first ever case involving a transgender victim to be ruled a hate crime.
Letitia Green was a trans woman who was murdered on November 14, 2008. The man who shot her, Dwight DeLee, was found guilty of first-degree manslaughter as a hate crime against gays.
2009, Tilly Ananabu Mack, a 21-year-old transgender woman, was attacked and fatally stabbed in broad daylight on the street in Washington, D.C.
George Stephen Lopez Mercado had her throat cut after a 26-year-old who later confessed to the murder noticed that she was trans. The murderer has since been imprisoned for hate crime.
Camila, surname unknown, was murdered by her boyfriend in Russia when he was enraged after discovering her trans status.
2010, Victoria Carmen White, a 28-year-old transgender woman, was fatally shot at an apartment in Maplewood, New Jersey on Sunday, September 11th.
2011, Ramazan Setin, 24, was shot by her brother in a Turkey hospital in front of other patients.
Cassandra, found murdered in a forest near Rouen, Normandy, in France. The exact cause of death was not disclosed.
Melina Suarez, found stabbed to death in her home in Carolina, a suburb of San Juan, Puerto Rico.
Jeanette Tovar, murdered by her partner during a domestic dispute in Dallas, Texas. Her death was caused by blunt force trauma to the head.
Madonna, a.k.a. Madonna, died in a hospital in Aracaju, Brazil, of head injuries after an unknown group of people attacked her with stent.
Sarah bled to death from a slit throat in Antalya, Turkey.
Kira Cordova, a.k.a. Kira Cruz, found shot in the head in Philadelphia's Frankfurt area.
January Marie Lapousse died in a hospital after being stabbed at her home in the area of New Westminster, B.C., Canada.
Keisha Jones, shot to death in Miami, Florida, 7 blocks from her home.
Donta Gooden, a.k.a. Tiffany Gooden, stabbed to death in the K-Town area of Chicago. Her body was found in an abandoned building.
Buissa Diasi, found dead in her home in Duncan Village, South Africa.
Cecile Ann, throat was cut open and her face disfigured by a knife at her home in Antalya, Turkey.
Lorna Escalera, found by firefighters in bed using thermal imaging after her building caught fire in Brooklyn, New York.
Randy Martell, found shot to death in Oakland, California.
Paige Clay, found shot in the head in an alley in Chicago, Illinois.
Coco Williams, found shot to death outside a home in Parkhurst area of Detroit, Michigan.
Tyrell Jackson, shot to death near Palm Beach, Florida.
Rosita, stabbed to death in her home in the South Beach area of Miami, Florida.
Agnes Torres Soca, tortured before she was killed. Her body was found in a ravine near Atletico, Mexico.
Dione Jones, stabbed at a bus stop in Washington, D.C.
Sonia Massey, shot to death in Gujarat, India.
You know, it's so very sad. And we noticed that many of them were here close to where we live, at home. And
exactly.
To me, it's just totally, I don't even have the words. How can an individual hurt somebody for being themselves?
It's just because they have their own insecurities and do not have the ability and are not strong enough to be themselves. So they have to take out their frustration and anger on somebody else that is happy doing so, which is a very sad thing.
Extremely sad. I found an article on the internet titled "How I Learned to Hate Transgender People." So maybe we could blame the media, we could blame movies, we could blame so many different incidences on how or why people's brains are programmed to hate us. The article goes, the first time I openly laughed at a transgender person, I was 12 years old. It was February, but I grew up in Tucson, Arizona, so the movie theater in which I was seeing Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, had the AC on. The laughter helped me shake off the chills.
We, the audience, had just learned that Sean Young's character, Lieutenant Louis Einhorn, was transgender. Prior to identifying herself as Louis Einhorn, she'd been the pro football player Ray Finkel, who everyone thought was an at-large criminal. Einhorn is Finkel, screamed Jim Carrey, cracking the case before our very eyes. Finkel is Einhorn. Einhorn is a man. Then, more to himself, Einhorn is a man. Then he went to vomit.
The joke, if you can call it that, rested upon an earlier scene which Carrie kissed Lieutenant Einhorn. Your gun is digging into my hip, he told her as they made out. Now, the memory of kissing a transgender woman was forcing Carrie to puke profusely, burn his clothes, and weep. In the background played Boy George's The Crying Game, the hit song from 2 years earlier that had soundtracked a dramatic film with a prominent transgender character.
Looking back, I am ashamed at how much I guffawed at Carrie's revulsion. We all know what the real joke was. It was disgusting to kiss Einhorn. Because there's something weird and gross about transgender people. The mockery gets especially debased when Carrie forcefully strips Einhorn down in front of an army of police officers in order to expose her tucked away penis. Everyone dry heaves when they see the bulge. Carrie eventually tells someone to read it, it's right.
The laughter at transgender people's expense didn't end there either. 1 month after Ace Ventura premiered, I saw Naked Gun 33 1/3, the hit comedy in which Anna Nicole Smith's character does a sexy silhouette striptease that ends up revealing a penis. Once again, her former suitors are appalled. Then there's the famous tone lock frat anthem, Funky Cole Medina, the second verse of which finds Locke talking about a girl he meets named Sheena. After the two flirt, Locke takes Sheena home, where it is revealed that she's transgender.
The rapper, who you might remember also co-starred in Ace Ventura, throws Sheena out of his house saying, I don't fool around with no Oscar Mayer. Even in supposedly queer-friendly movies like 1991's Soapdish, you will find characters disgusted by transgender people, like when Robert Downey Jr. gags after having a romantic interlude with a trans woman.
Repugnance is a common theme in the trans people as jokes canon, but more prevalent is the element of deceit. Time and again, in both comedic and dramatic films, transgender people are cast as deviant tricksters out to fool innocent victims into sleeping with them. The narrative plays upon two of Americans' deepest fears, sexual vulnerability and humiliation.
Not only is your sex partner lying about their gender, victims who fall for it are then forced to grapple with the embarrassment of being seen as gay. Men tricked into sleeping with another man are embarrassed by the threat to their masculinity. So much culture has taught us that transgender people aren't just sexual aliens, they are also predatory liars. In reality, we know the real predators are straight people afraid of transgender interlopers.
Transgender men and women have been raped, beaten, and killed, often with impunity throughout history. But only recently have we been keeping count. In 1993, Brandon Tina was raped by two former friends after they discovered that he was born a woman. Tina reported the rape, but his local sheriff, who called Tina it, refused to arrest the attackers. 5 days after assaulting him, they returned and murdered him. Similarly, in 2002, four acquaintances of Gwen Arroyo, a 17-year-old girl in California, beat and strangled her to death after discovering she was transgender.
In all the Human Rights Campaign estimates, 1 out of every 1,000 murders a year are transgender hate crimes. More recent cultural depictions of transgender characters are less reactionary, but they're still not very humanizing. A character on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia did date a transgender woman, but they concentrated most of the jokes around his girlfriend's big penis. And in the recent hit sequel, The Hangover 2, Ed Helms has sex with a transgender prostitute who may or may not have taken advantage of him when he was too drunk to function.
Once again, trans folks are portrayed as predatory. We have made some progress, sure, but tell that to the transgender woman who was beaten into a seizure in Baltimore in April. We've still got a long way to go. In the years since, I've laughed along with Ace Ventura. I've grown up and stopped getting a kick out of LGBT people. You could say I've gotten better. I've also started to consider what I was laughing at in the first place. I'm willing to agree that society is improved if we grant some leeway to comedians and artists to push the limits.
But when pushing the limits becomes debasing an entire group of people as twisted quasi-rapists, we cross the line from comedy to bigotry. When I was laughing at Ace Ventura, I was laughing because I was uncomfortable with a biological man living as a woman. I have to wonder if Brandon Tina's killers laughed too.
That was a very interesting article and very suited for today's show.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I think, presenting trans individuals in movies, commercials, etc. is fine. But, to have the reactions based upon, in those things, to have people reacting like that is crossing the line. It becomes, as they say, bigotry. I mean, would they do that if it was a black man and a white woman? Would people see them together and start puking? That would have a totally different meaning on interracial relationships. And I think it's ridiculous.
Well, I'm sure that was done back in the day before it was looked at more acceptable. And I do believe that we are progressing, and I do believe with all the education that is being placed out there, whether it's through documentaries or shows like ours or other great shows that are out there, that we will one day get the respect or at least tolerate it, something or another. I mean, we are human beings, yes, so our genitals do not match our brain, but it does not make us predators, it does not make us rapists, and we're not trying to be deviant towards anyone.
Exactly. And, that's the reason why it's so important. And I always stress that if you're going to be involved in an intimate type relationship with anybody that you meet, be upfront, be honest. Don't try to hide the situation that basically you are transgender because, they're going to find out. And when they do, it's going to be an issue. And you never know how that person is going to react and deal with that situation. So, be honest, be upfront, and, just don't be afraid to tell who you are. And if they don't like it, okay, they can move on. They can go find what they're looking for.
And I agree totally. I think that we have to be upfront. I think that as much as we want to feel that we are that gender we transition to, we have to give the person that we're dating, that we're having any kind of interaction with, the benefit of the doubt, to let them be the ones to say, yes, I'm okay with this, or no, I'm not. Not everyone's going to be okay with it. Some people just can't handle it, but, that's how it goes. Well, today we're going to end the show early since we've got a lot of things to do, preparing for the Transgender Remembrance Show. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you.
We will have a short show Thursday, Thanksgiving Day, just be with you guys on the day of thanks. Next week we'll be back to our normal time, 6:30 p.m., but this Thursday we will do another show at 2 o'clock. We're going to end the show today with a song that Jessica and I put together. I wrote the song originally, but we changed it to fit for transgender. Revised it, yes. And it's called Gone Too Soon Through Hate. Again, we thank our sponsor, the Breast Form Store. We thank you all for being part of our lives. We love you very much and are so appreciative of our trans family and our LGBTQ brothers and sisters. We love you, but remember to love yourselves too.
I am Jessica Lynn Cummings. I am a transgender female.
I am Mark Angelo Cummings, Jessica's husband. I am a transgender male.
We as transgender individuals face the possibility of violence towards us every day or worse. This is dedicated to all of the transgender individuals that paid the ultimate price for being themselves.
The statistics for murder of the average person is 1 in 18,000. These statistics are horrifically different if you are transgender. 1 in 12.
But it's even worse when we die by our own hands.
Lost in a world of affection, never really seem to measure up. The face and shadows are against me. So many times I just want to stop. Was this world made of men? Or this pain is just too much? Can someone please stop the beatings and the hatred towards us? I'm just a child